Welcome to the Seoul Patch Podcast, the podcast where three American expats explore different topics related to living and working in South Korea. With a combined 50 years of living experience in Asia, there are plenty of stories to tell. So, pop in your AirPods and make yourself comfortable. It's time for the Seoul Patch Podcast.
He's starting, isn't he? This is the beginning. I know how Jack starts now.
Yeah, because it's always like mumbling, and it takes like 80 minutes to get to my first sentence. But I'm going to try to be.
First sentence. I know this now.
Yeah, it's so bad. It's such. I every time I listen to it, I get so pissed off at myself. I'm like, just spit it out, man. So here's my. I have this like theory about friendships with Korean men, especially among like expat men and Korean men, and the fact that all healthy males in Korea have to serve in the military. However, if you come from like the States or Canada, we have a voluntary military service. And so not having to like fulfill that duty and not go through that, what's I think they consider it a pretty trying 18 months. It's shorter than it used to be, but it's not like a picnic. It's a really pretty awful experience for a lot of people. And I think the fact that we never go through that experience, there's always this like separation between
never get there.
I don't know if you guys ever felt that, but I just felt like we're not in the you got to go through that to kind of be in the club, and then you can connect more closely with the
there's
Korean men.
Two things that I think about that when you start talking about it. The first is, although I think to some extent that might be true, but because of the fact, maybe three things, because of the fact that we are still foreigners, mm-hmm. and we're still outside in a lot of ways, that I don't think they look at us and expect the same thing that they would of a Korean male peer in their age. So I've never felt that specific thing as keeping myself from being close with other guys here in Korea, at least.
And I wasn't also calling it like prejudice, or it's not that. It's something else.
Well, so actually, one other part of that then is, although not specifically related to military, although I do think as well military, I think that opinion is changing with people our age and with kids that are currently in the military, the kids that are in their 20s, like our students. But that's something we can get to in a minute. I do have a good friend of mine, a Korean buddy of mine, who, he did the whole military and everything. And he is a physical education major. And he's a swim teacher now, actually, and a swim judge at competitions and stuff like that. Nice guy. And he, actually, I met him at my swimming pool. Was kind of funny, actually. He's one of the swim teachers at my swimming pool, and like right when I first started swimming there, he calls me into the back office. I'm like, I just started swimming at the pool. I'm like, shit, did I just do something wrong? Like, why am I getting called into the back office? And he was just like, hey, dude, you want to hang out sometime? I was like, oh.
He didn't give you a life jacket or something, or floaties for your arms?
I was all right.
Okay.
But no, but I remember talking to him about, because maybe you remember in the news, maybe 3-4 years ago here, there was kind of a crackdown on, maybe not a crackdown exactly, but kind of a change in policy in especially the university system when it comes to hazing and MTs and stuff like that, where it used to be really strong. And they still do MTs here. And I think we've briefly touched on what an MT is in past episodes, but like the students all going out and partying together, basically membership training, getting together. And so this used to be really hard, where the MTs were just like pour booze down your throat. I think it is to some extent still that, but they've tried to get that out of a lot of majors, at least to keep it not as hardcore. So I was asking my buddy about it. I was like, yo, you went through the Korean university experience. Like, what was that like? Like, were you hazed? Because they're trying to change the rules and blah, blah, blah. And from what he was telling me that night, was that, especially and the reason I said he was a PE major is because they were one of the more hardcore majors when it comes to the hazing and the drinking and those types of things. Like, I think, English education majors, for example, probably don't go quite as hard as the physical.
I've had a couple of zombified PE students in my classroom. Like you could tell
Right.
they probably stopped drinking like 2 hours before the class started. And I think one
Yeah,
time I had one that
we've had
he
that.
was drinking like right before the class because he was hammered during the class. So
I've had that back when the uni festivals used to actually sell booze on campus.
yeah,
I had kids come in, like they'd like finish their drink, throw it away, and walk into my class, and was like, But anyway, I was talking to my buddy about this, and he was telling me about when he went through it, and he basically, I mean, it was full on hazing, like the shit that you hear about I had a buddy of mine in a fraternity back at my university, and my university is very non-Greek uni. So people at my uni, when we talk fraternities, we've got the stereotype that they really are just crazy party goers. And I remember hearing stories from him about how they went out to the woods and they would like, just literally pour like whiskey down your throat and shit like that. And so my Korean buddy here was telling me very similar stories about how there was just like forcing you to get beyond drunk, and like the whole, like, I don't know, running the gauntlet type of things, not like crazy physical, not like dangerous beatings, but at least like slapping as they run through, and like serious hazing, shit like that.
Yeah.
And the way he was telling me about it, he's like, yeah, it was kind of fucked up, and yeah, it's crazy and everything, but I became, I'm quoting from him, paraphrasing, he's like, that brought me closer to all of my sunbays, all of my seniors, all of my juniors. Well, he was the junior one, so all of the seniors. He said that solidified that group in there.
And I should mention that we're kind of the seed for this podcast today was the article in the Korea Times. The article is "Cultivating Friendship" by Bernard Rowan. He's wrote an opinion piece there about exactly what you're just talking about. Is that the idea of strengthening
with the
those
juniors
bonds.
and seniors and things.
Yeah.
And so he ended up telling me, he's like, now that it's going away, it was kind of like a bittersweet thing, is the way he was describing. He's like, in some ways it's good that it's going away, but at the same time, like, that's part of the culture. That's what brought us together. Like the people that were my seniors in university, we still are close now. The people who were my classmates and we went through that shit together, we're still close now. And that experience brought us together. And so it was interesting hearing him talk about that, because I was of the opinion like they're getting rid of this from the school. I'm like, well, that's cool. That's great. These types of things do not belong. Like, first off, they're just abusive behaviors and they really don't belong in an education institution in general. And he was like, I agree, but right. Yeah. So I think that's similar. That came from the story you were asking about, military.
Right.
And I think of that age group, there are some people who basically it's like, yeah, you have to have gone through the military, and then you're a real man. You've gone through it. You have this shared experience. Right?
And it's something difficult, like the hazing thing. It's got to be a little bit painful, and that ties you together. I mean, what do you guys like? Do you remember the first Korean friend that you hung out with, like in Korea? Like my first friend was a Hagwon teacher, so that's a pretty common way to meet. Like a lot of the teachers were female, but there were a couple of male teachers there, and they took us to Hongdae, and this is around this is way back in 2002 World Cup days, but. Yeah, so that was cool. Like, I got to know him a little bit, and they were very. I found him to be. He really wanted me to like Korea, like he was very he was and he really wanted to, I think, create a kind of atmosphere of friendship in the office. Like there's something about that cohesiveness among workers that is really important, that I think is prominent here, and maybe, I don't know, would you guys say less prominent in America, like a work setting? Is that really important to have the group dynamic be so close?
I think it's kind
I've never worked
a lot of ways, like I think, well, I can't really speak to it because I don't, we all work together, right? But in our office, it's not a typical Korean office. Mm-hmm. But in like my personal experience and from what I've heard from Korean friends and etc., Yeah, I feel like there's something quite different in the average office in America where you want to keep your coworkers as not really friends. Do you know this? Like you
Yeah,
separate.
they're my work friends.
Right. You
And
want to keep, there's a practicality to keeping that separation. It's not just a cultural anomaly. There's some practical application to both ways of doing it. But I think
yeah,
like in the American side, the idea is that you just don't want to have any type of drama affecting your paycheck. I mean, you don't want to bring those two worlds together. And that makes a lot of sense. But on
yep.
the other hand, trying to build deeper relationships and, being part of the team, and sharing, building a little bit of, how can I say it? It helps to build that team dynamic and
Like
makes you
cooperation
feel
or
more
something.
responsible. Makes you feel more responsible to the company. You're part of the family. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much an obvious point.
And well, I think like a lot of like, I just remember when I was in high school, I worked for Walmart, and they tried to manufacture that kind of feeling, by doing like calisthenics together in the morning, and
I've heard of this.
I think you're not
That
supposed
just
to
makes you
call
hate it even more.
oh yeah, it was the worst, like kind of corporate, HR, order. But I feel like here it's a more organic. It's not like, it doesn't feel like it's coming from HR. It feels like it's kind of coming from the bottom up, instead of the top down. And so in American corporation, it feels very much top down pressure, but in Korea, it just feels like something that you just have to do because we have to cut this tension. You're new, so you're
I
screwing
think it
up
comes a little bit from the top though, because it's still a lot of times the boss calling out the hueshik and being like, "Yo, we're all going out drinking tonight."
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Like
I was thinking
it's
more.
not
I've
really often.
never experienced it.
Yeah. Like for me, I think a lot of my understanding of it, is like, if we're just talking about like office interactions, is through my wife. Like she kind of tells me like what when you're just the new in the school or the company or whatever, people will kind of keep you at arm's length for a little while and kind of suss you out before they bring you in. But there does seem to be a moment where there is some kind of either they going out together, a hueshik, a dinner, drinks after work or something, where you want to bond with these people. So I think that, I guess what I'm trying to maybe get to is, in the article he's talking about these different, he finds Korea actually more accommodating, which was, I think, kind of goes against the kind of I can't find the words, but the what we think is true, that it's easier to make friends in America. It was kind of interesting to read an article where he's talking about how it's easier to make friends here in Korea, given the different networks of relationships, because they're very much I think more formulated here. It's something that you create that strong they put effort into creating that strong bond, that circle. And so
yeah, it's kind of like an event. It's an event, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a little less organic, and I don't know. I read the article this morning. How do you say it? Oh, regardless, it's, instead of, he said he was like sort of a shy guy or something like this, was my memory of it.
Mm-hmm.
So not the one to reach out or outgoing. So, how do you build a relationship? But he found that, and I would agree with this, that it's kind of like, how did you describe when getting work here for many people that come here and they get a job working in a hog one? It's a life in a bottle type of
right
thing. It's
yeah
like,
it's
off the cork,
exactly.
and you got to your apartment, you got your bus pass, you got your health insurance, you got your
Right.
job, you got your friends, like everything is just like whoop, and it's there.
Right.
I feel like Korea has a bit of this. I see it with my freshman students that and some girls I've dated, there's this almost it's going to sound bad. It's not bad, but from for me, being American, coming from the outside, it seems surprising. It seems a little forced. Like we're going to make a memory. We're going to take this trip because we're going to make a memory. And we're going to make the memory by doing this. We're going to make a photo book. We're going to take we're going to, it's an event-driven type of thing. And I see my freshmen doing this
right.
A lot. And when I first saw it, it seemed a little bit, and again, I don't want to offend anyone. My opinion has changed. But the first time I saw these types of efforts, it seemed a little cringy. Like, yeah, that's not real. Come on. But now I get it. Like, I really like it. I mean, you got a lot of people coming from different parts of the country. They don't know each other. And I think there's alternatives to the MT getting wasted and hazing thing. There are other things you can do. There's other types of group activities. And if you're an American student, obviously you're familiar with this. There's departments at your university that have like what do they call that? Like, not the outreach department. I was a student employee when I was a freshman, so I helped like coordinate some of this stuff.
Yeah, sure.
I was in recruitment outreach, but we had some overlap here. So like when there was campus events, we focused on the freshmen and we had like certain activities and games and things. It's effectively like,
it's like an orientation, almost like a
orientation, but it's a lot of corny kind of activities, but it's a way to get people to participate. Freshmen in America would be a little bit like, all right, those are only like kind of the chumps that are doing that.
You got to roll your eyes and act like you're not having fun, even though you might
you're too
be enjoying
cool for school, right?
Yeah, too cool for this. Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of my freshman students, they'll jump right on it. Like, no, it's what you want to do. You want to be able to create those bonds. You got to make new friends, and it's a thing to do.
That's a
like,
right. That's a great
like
nuance. I like that. I like that difference, because the attitude towards it is like, in Korea, they're like, let's skip over the eye rolling and the I'm too cool for this, and let's all just have fun. Let's all participate. And it's very much like doing an activity in the classroom where it's like, we're going to do a speaking activity, and we're English teachers, and you're going to get the eye rollers who are like, oh, this is not cool. And as a teacher, I'm always, saying to them like, hey, if you guys just surrender to this, it's going to be way more fun. And I guarantee you're going to enjoy it. But
yeah, I have the same attitude. Like, guys, I know you think this is so cringe, but seriously, just surrender. We're going to have a good time.
Exactly.
And 9 out of 10 times it is.
It's so true. And I feel like Korea has kind of figured that out before. Korea, it was like LinkedIn before LinkedIn was LinkedIn. You know what I mean? Like, this networking idea was something that they had kind of perfected in their social hierarchies or whatever, long before we started thinking about this. At least myself, I wasn't thinking about networking and different circles. Even the word circle is so often used, right? Kevin, do your students have like a this circle, like the basketball circle, they'll call it that?
That's the university club. Basically,
yeah, it's
they
call it the circle, right? Like, instead of a club, they often use circle, which I think
that's
is
because
kind
of the way it
interesting.
translates. Because dong is probably like circle is round.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm reading more. I'm projecting more meaning into it than it actually has. But
actually, no. The translation doesn't have circle. It just has club for that. It's just club.
Okay.
I'm not sure where circle comes from actually.
Because I've heard my students use that. It confused me
definitely.
a few times. Where like I have to go to circle, and I'm like, what is circle? Where I don't know what you're talking about. And eventually, I figured out that they were talking about different clubs that they're participating in. But it is, I think, because in the article, the guy, he's talking about these different networks, which he kind of describes them metaphorically as these circles, and they often overlap. And one leads to another friendship with another group of people. And he says he found it quite easy to make friends with Korean people. And so I'm just wondering if you guys have found the same experiences that he has, because I know that we're coming at it from a teaching perspective, and he was a student here, which is different because your classmates are Korean. So that, I think there's a whole other element there that might be easier for him.
I know I got lucky with all types of relationships, all social stuff when I landed here. I just had really dumb luck. I had the advantage of having a friend who was living here. He had arrived, I think, about a year earlier, and is a very social person. And he had built out a huge network of friends. They're still some of my best friends to this day. You know, this is 13 years ago. As far as like the relationships from work, the only job I've ever had is working with you guys, and you know our office is like all foreigners, and
Right,
we're all
yeah.
pretty friendly. It's really social, but I think our office is an anomaly. Not that other offices aren't friendly. I didn't want to say that. Like I'm sure other universities, Yonsei, we love you. You know, like everybody's having a good time. But yeah, but we've always had from day one a very loud group office. We don't have individual offices. It's a group, you know, on the Seoul campus. We have a big office pool. So it's always been really social that way too. So yeah, life in Korea socially has been extremely loud for me and really dynamic, and just, yeah, it does. I don't think I've had I can't say any of my friendships were built on some sort of prescribed type activity like that, like an MT type of thing, or like, yeah, and I've never had to do the Weishi thing. I've never done, I mean, we have like dinners, but I mean, you don't have to go. And if you do go, there's vegan options. You don't have to drink. It's not.
Right. It's very much not. Yeah. The circles, the groups that he's describing in the article, I think it's kind of interesting, because I think it goes right back to what you said. It's like everything seems more planned. It's like we're going to drink some alcohol and everybody's going to do that. We're going to go take pictures at the photo booth and we're going to do that. Like these are things we're going to do. And I think like Norebang, the singing rooms are you know, they have these they design these little spaces, I feel like in the country, to kind of fill those like forced memories that you're going to be making. And
it makes me think of just a few days ago, I was in Garosugil, and it looks new. I've been up and down that street a million times, and it's the first time I noticed it. Not on the main drag, it's just off a little bit, but it looks like the entrance to a really cool movie theater or something. And there's an attendant at the door right there. And I was with my friend. I said, what's going on here? And we kind of took a step towards the entrance to look, and it's glass on two sides, really cool. It's just a photo booth. When you go in, it's just a bunch of photo booths.
Yeah.
You know, we both kind of chuckled at first, like, what the heck, you know, just taking a picture.
Yeah.
And then you could see some of we made our way to the side of the building, you could see some of the samples. They're really cool photos.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you go to Disneyland or Great America, like Six Flags, Great America, Illinois. Yeah. And you can put on like the old timey clothes, you know, you get the six-shooter, the hat,
and you could take it with the kind of a black and white or
so did you go in? Did you get pictures taken?
Sepia tone.
We didn't do pictures. But I was just thinking about that. That makes me think about what you're talking about, how that type of thing, and that's expensive real estate. If anybody doesn't know that neighborhood's expensive. And having a joint that's like literally not even half a block off the main drag in that neighborhood, that's not cheap real estate. First floor right there, the build out, it's a nice place.
Yeah.
And all they're doing is taking a picture.
Well, I just at my daughter's desk, I have a daughter, she's 13 years old, middle school student, and she had a stack of these, like those pictures with her friends. Like they, every time they go out, they do a photo booth thing. And then they bring it home, and you have this artifact to remember the moment, and, you know, kind of, you know, remember that day and make a memory. And I find that I think it's kind of like the hot thing right now is the photo booth. I mean, I think you know, it was like the coin singing room was popular like a couple of years ago, where you just go in and you throw in a 500 won and you get 2 songs or whatever. Yeah. You know, those were
I've seen
really
a lot
popular.
of those pictures on students' like folders and stuff in class, like they have it stuck to it. I will think that it's almost only female students though.
I saw a lot of couples that were in
And
there.
couples too. Yeah.
Couples, but not like guy friends.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying, Kev. But
I
it's
think, like,
definitely it's not a solo thing. It's not you wouldn't go there and get a picture taken by yourself just to have a glamour shot. I feel like it's
You want to spice up your passport photo, maybe you will, but yeah.
Oh man. All right. Quick digression. I'll make this really short. I was when I came back to the country, I needed to get a headshot for my US passport was expired and I could do it at the embassy, right? So I was in Busan. It was a last minute thing. I didn't know I needed it. I was catching the train to go up. And so I walked into like one of these photo shoot places, but this is like a solo place where you get your picture taken, right? Yeah. And you know, dumb me, I'm new to the whole scene here. I don't know. I didn't go looking for like a photo booth. I went into this place, a professional photo shoot. I think I paid $20 or something. And
I did that too.
Yeah, I said I just need the headshot because I need it for my passport. Which again, dumb. If you go to the freaking embassy, you can get your picture taken there. I'm sure they have a photo.
$10. Yep.
Yeah, right. So I paid a premium. I get my photo taken, and they're like, "You can't have it right away." I had to wait. So I don't know. I think I went and got dinner, came back, and they give it to me, and it's all photoshopped.
Yes, they photoshopped mine too.
I need this for my passport. Like, so I'm looking at this thing. I've got no time to like dink around. It's like I just had to get out of town, and so I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it. I'm like, you know what? I think it's okay. I get on the KTX. I'm on the KTX. I'm looking at the picture again. I noticed they gave me hair. So for our listeners that don't know, I don't have hair. I haven't had hair in like over a decade, longer than a decade, like maybe 15, 18 years. So I'm looking at this picture and I've got this little wispy hair that they painted in. Like, oh my God, right? So I take it to the embassy thinking at this point, the light bulb goes off and it's like, well, I can just use the photo booth there. Should have thought of that in the first place, but I've already got these pictures.
Yeah.
So I brought them to the embassy. They used them.
Oh, you got it. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
okay.
I had an illegal photo for my passport for 10 years.
I did the same thing. I went into like a photo shop and got the passport photos and the guy made me wait. And then when I got the pictures back, it was all, touched up.
Did you get a mustache?
I didn't have a mustache, but I had like my cheeks were, very rosy.
You looked good.
And just like,
right?
Yeah, it was like,
a little rouge.
I was like, have you ever like, when you like post a selfie on like your Facebook, profile or whatever. And I remember doing that with my camera and I was like, oh, wow, that's actually is a pretty good picture of me. And then I realized that the filter is on like 89% or something, it's like, and then you put it back to 0 and you're like, dear God, I'm hideous, like anyway, that's a good story. I have been through it myself. Yeah. What do you guys like if we go back to the article and like talking about the hierarchies, how like the kind of conventional wisdom is like the juniors have to follow everything that the older person says, basically like you're a slave to the senior, and he was talking about there's a much more give and take in that relationship than maybe people first realize or hear about when they learn about the hierarchies in East Asia, and Confucianism and stuff like that. And so I'm just wondering if you guys have what you guys thought about that portion of the article, or if you have anything.
Not really connected to actual friendships, but I remember in one of my Korean classes many years ago, they always put you in some kind of scenario. You're person A, this person's person B, talk. And in this scenario, the teacher was my senior, and they were telling me to do things, and I had to practice how would I respond to this. And the first example was like, your senior tells you to go get coffee. How would you respond to that? And I was like, go get your own damn coffee. And she's like, no, that's not what you say. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm not going to go get them their damn coffee.
You say yes, and then you just don't do it, or something.
Oh, yeah. So that was what I remember about this is that, yeah, like in the textbook, it was built for the junior to do what the senior said, basically.
Right. That's the kind of like the kindergarten level understanding of the culture is like, oh, you have to pay respect to all, older people. And it's like, I remember having a conversation with one of the teachers that used to work at our school. They're not there anymore, but he was telling me, he's like, no, even it's built into the language, like the syntax and stuff and the grammar, so that, you know, even if you're talking to a serial killer, if that serial killer is older than you use the polite form of the ending. It's age related. It's not about, do you respect this person or not respect this person. It's just you know, older person, you use the jondaemal, the honorific endings. Am I correct with that, Kevin?
Yeah, we've talked about that a bit as
Yeah.
well. And the names you use, like I've got a buddy of mine, I haven't seen him in a while, but I haven't seen anybody in a while. But he always calls me Hyung, even though he's like 1 year younger than me. And it just feels weird. Like, dude, just call me my name. But we're speaking in Korean to each other, and that's just what you say.
Yeah.
Like when you're 1 year older, 1 year younger than someone, you don't use names. You use title.
And I think the problem is that I think a lot of like expats that come here, we kind of extrapolate from that language, that grammar, and apply it to the social, the actual social interactions, and where it's much more nuanced than you can't really extrapolate that and say, okay, in that case, then seniors can just tell you, older people just tell younger people what to do all the time, and you have to do it because they're older than you. That's not that's the kind of nonsense, a very simplistic way. And so I guess I was kind of interested in that, the in the circle where you have different aged people, he was talking about the importance is the most competent person takes the lead, depending on what activity you're doing, what the context is. Not just defer to the senior all the time, but there's actually sometimes it's okay for the junior to lead, you know, the younger person, if they happen to be the expert in whatever, you know, activity that they're doing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if I have any like personal experience with that, but
yeah, I don't have any insights into that either.
I'd like to know a little bit more details about that. Like, it was probably, if he was a student, it was probably done in Korean, but I'd like to get confirmation on that. You know, like what if these, you know, it's a foreigner group, maybe it was done in English, and so that might change things in that specific meeting.
Yeah, I think in this case he's talking about with Koreans, but yeah,
right. But that doesn't necessarily mean it was done in Korean.
That's true.
Just because it's with Korean people. If there's, you know, one foreigner in the group, it's possible that it changes. So I don't know about that for sure. And like at a university, you know, things might be a little bit different. In a university club, it's different from like a work situation where someone who is your teamjang, your team leader in the office, is someone who's, you know, actually a grade higher than you, not just that they've been there longer, but they're, you know, one rank higher, is different from, you know, the tennis club at your school, where someone had been there 2 years younger.
Right, the stakes
you're asking,
are much
like,
higher.
You know, how do I put a curve on the ball? Oh, I know how to do that. That's a different type of thing. And so I think the context is really important and missing in that example. I don't think it's wrong, but I just would like to know more.
We probably need more information to draw from that example. I'll tell you guys a story, just a quick one, and you tell me what you would do in this case. So this is all the way back in 2002 when I first came to Korea, and as I mentioned, there was the guy. We'll call him Eric. He had a Korean name, but he used an English name, but it's something like Eric, or I can't remember exactly. So Eric takes us out to Hongdae for World Cup celebration. His older brother is meeting us there, and he gives us a ride, you know, like he drives us there, which was kind of cool. Like, you know, this is, you know, I'd never driven in a car. Like in Korea, I always traveled using.
I remember the first time one of my buddies picked me up in his car, and I thought it was like, I've been driving in cars. I felt
like a movie star or something, you know.
I know,
like,
suddenly in a car in Korea feels cool. Years ago.
Now I freaking hate driving, but yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Was this Eric's actual older brother or?
Yeah, no, it was his actual brother, his blood relation. Cool. His brother was meeting us there. And I remember, you know, just going into this like cool bar, and the game was playing on the television, and we were drinking, and we had a great time. And it was really, I probably got way too drunk, but that's a totally different podcast.
You're allowed to.
Right. Anyway, this guy ends up like leaving the Hagwon. He is like going back to school or whatever. And all of a sudden, one day, like 6 months later, I get a phone call and he wants to borrow like $150, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hear, like, through the grapevine, I hear that he's like calling people and asking for some money, to borrow some money. And so, you know, I'm like trying to avoid, I don't have a phone at that time. So it's like, he's calling our house phone. And so I'm like,
Screening your calls.
He's not here right now, you know, right? But then my roommate, who was also an expat and a teacher at the school, you know, he asked him to borrow the money. And so he was avoiding this guy. So we're not answering our phone basically in our house. And so my buddy and I start talking to each other and we're like, God, this is weird because, you know, Eric's, he seemed like a really, you know, like stand-up dude. And so I don't think he's trying to, like, you know, fleece us. But, you know, my friend is like, maybe he's got like a drug problem or something, which is so laughable when you think about Korea. You know, like, this is how new we were there, that was even contemplated as one of the reasons why he's asking for money. In America, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that drug problem, definitely, that, you know, 75% chance that's probably what it is. So anyway, our coordinator of a Canadian guy who's another teacher at the school ended up lent him the money. And what had happened was that Eric had gotten a girlfriend and blew all of his money on this new girlfriend. Because, you know, when you first start dating, you have to really, like, you gotta lay down the cash and really impress, you know, photo booths, shoots, and karaoke.
Photo booths shoots that up, man.
It's expensive, man. Like, it's, you know, you're paying for 2 coffees and 2 muffins every time you go out, you know. So he just got a girlfriend and he was so infatuated with her, he just blew through all the cash that his parents gave him, and he was like too embarrassed to ask his parents for more money. So he started asking to borrow it from the teachers. He ended up paying back the guy who lent him the money double. So if I had just given him the money, I would have made $100, you know, like, he would have given me 200 back for 100. So it's just funny. Like, my mind went to the dark place, and this guy's got a problem, and it was just such an innocent thing. It was just, you know, he had a girlfriend, but we did not give him the money. What would you do? Would you give the money to the guy?
I don't know. $150 isn't a ton of money. I don't know.
This is 2002 money.
It's just weird because you said that he stopped working at the Hagwon for a while. Like, if you'd been hanging out, like, if one of you guys asked me for $150, it's like, sure, here you go, no problem. But like, somebody who quit like a month ago and disappeared, and suddenly they call you for no other reason. It's not like, yo, let's have a meeting, like, let's hang out. Oh, by the way, can I borrow some? Like, yo, I just need money. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, I thought for sure that, like, Sean, like the guy who lent him the money, I'm like, that you'll never see that money again. You know, I was like, oh, you're a sucker, man. And then turns around like a week later, he gives it all back and then gives them extra. And that's what the guy that was the coordinator had more experience in Korea. He's like, yeah, no, it's just, he's got a girlfriend now. He's short for cash, but I guarantee you he'll pay me back even more because he's going to feel guilty about it. And that's exactly what happened. So Eric was a totally stand-up guy. But I just, you know, I don't know, maybe it's my nihilistic dark tendencies, I guess. My mind just went to a bad place or whatever. But yeah, it was interesting. It was an interesting experience. But I don't know. Yeah. Oh man, we're gonna have to edit this part out. I've run out of things to say.
Out of material? No, never out of material. Never out of material.
I gotta just like do a quick time code check so I can cut this out right here. But
well, what beats haven't we hit? I wanted to talk a little bit about just like social life in general. I thought we could riff on that.
Yeah. Okay.
So we've talked a little bit about like how relationships are formed among Koreans and trying to do a cultural comparison. It's a little tough for us to make that comparison because none of us are Korean, even though we've lived here for a long time. if we really wanted to have an honest discussion about that, we'd have to bring someone who's Korean onto the show.
Yeah.
These are all like our impressions. So anybody listening, you got to take that with a grain of salt. All three of us are not Koreans, but these are our observations and the things we've learned. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what social life is like here. As I imagine a lot of our listeners are tuning in because they're curious about Korea, meaning they're not probably Korean. It's a good percentage. Probably.
Yeah. Half our listeners are in the US and probably,
right. So they might have an interest in like learning about the culture, but I'd also wager that there's probably a good percentage of those people who have some interest or potential to come and live here. And I want to talk a little bit about the just general social life, because for me, I was pretty surprised at how dynamic social life was when I came here. Like, I feel like I had a pretty damn healthy social life in Chicago and prior, but when I came to Korea, it seemed like it was turned up to 11. Most of the people I knew were either other expats that were on limited work schedules, like basically not working a full-time job. And the Koreans that I hang out with, they were not academics. A lot of them were people that worked in bars and clubs or didn't have jobs. And so it was
just hung out in the bars and clubs.
Yeah, I'm not quite, I was thinking about somebody in particular. It came to mind. I'm like, what the hell did he do? I don't think he did anything.
Can I borrow $150, man?
Yeah, it was that guy.
Yeah.
But
Eric.
Yeah, so it was for me when I came here, I was pretty surprised at how active things were. I felt like I arrived here when I was about 30, just about 29, 30 years old. And I felt more like I was 20 years old with my social interactions. Yeah. Everything was really on overdrive. Every weekend you're out of town, every night you're going somewhere, doing something, there's new people, just continuous. I think that went on it probably would have kept going on had I not like made kind of an effort to slow down.
Yeah, right. You're like, my liver needs a rest here.
Yeah, it was just, I found myself not, I don't know. I enjoy a lot of my own time and I wasn't really using it so much. Yeah. I just turned like a different person, became so social. I think that's something that happens to a lot of foreigners that come to Korea. I think
your path is interesting. It'd be like, because you had a friend here and you kind of got plugged into a social network.
I want to ask you guys.
The way I plugged myself into a social network was just through work, which is really, I think, a very common way. Is just like we were just talking about how in America your work friends are kind of at a distance. I think the opposite is true when you come overseas to work. Like those people you work with you pull them towards you, like you want.
That's the only people you know.
They're the only people you know. Exactly. And they're basically, same for me. Yeah, they're your corollary to other, groups of people. And if you don't have a good experience with that when you first come, you can have a really rough time here. I know some people that have not connected with their other Hagwon teachers for whatever reason. Like the Hagwon teachers that are there are older or just have their own lives and don't want to involve a new teacher. And so having to do that by yourself without being plugged in through a friend or through a job could be a really difficult situation here. You could go out to Hongdae and Itaewon and try to meet people at a bar, but I find for my personality, it's much easier if I'm just kind of plugged right into a group already. That's kind of, we're all working together. It's much easier.
I think that's how most people work. If you don't come here with a pre-made group of friends, you find your own. 9 out of 10 times, those are going to be people you're working with because that's just who you're connected to.
Yeah, but
unless you go out of your way to like you said, go to the bar.
Seoul is a massive city. It's super dense too. So like if you really like certain things like Meetup, like meetup.com or whatever it is, Seoul Meetup. That's, I think, probably so much more efficient than if you were in like, I don't know, Albuquerque Meetup.
Yeah.
there's just there's so much more groups going on here. Like Kev, like when you got into free diving, I remember when you started, I remember you saying, hey man, I think I want to get into free diving. And that was so long ago, but you were able to,
but I did that at first going to Thailand.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like if you wanted to do something like that, and you're not familiar with life in a city of 10 million plus people, where there's opportunities just to get into stuff like that, and you can meet friends and you can build a new network. Like if you want to play music, if you want to, I never did the meetup thing, but my ex-girlfriend did, and one of her good friends did it, and they would go. They did a Seoul meetup group that did hiking. So every weekend there was a new mountain to hike. Well, what happens if you go on, 5 weeks?
See the same people
hikes with the same people. Yeah, and boom, that becomes your dinner circle.
This is before, I guess, for me, cool like site. When I was looking for friends.
I've never used it, but
yeah, I've never used it because it didn't exist when I was actually looking for friends. The irony is that now that we have all these tools are available, which I think is a great point to make, is that you even if you land at a hagwon that's just totally a wet noodle, you can just go out, you can just use Facebook or Meetup or there's other apps or whatever, and you can meet people, and it doesn't even have to be dating. It could just be through the context of like hiking or something else. So I see people on Facebook all the time asking, throwing it out there just into the void. It's like, hey, I'm learning the guitar. Is there anyone who wants to jam with me? And so right there, you could just, go meet. And if you have a good experience, you've got a friend. It's so easy. It's so easy.
So much easier.
Social networks make
so much
things
easier than being in a little town. And in a little town, you might get lucky, like if it's guitar, sure, there's probably somebody in your little, suburb that plays guitar too or wants to jam. But if it's like, hey, you want to do some free diving, like your town might not have a pool. You might have to drive 2 hours. There might not be anybody else that's really into that. Like it's pretty random, quite honestly. But yeah, in a city
as always, I wonder how much this compares to big cities like New York, Chicago, LA, things like that back in the States, because I'm from a really
New York has
town.
I bet there's like a like a Central Park, yoga.
New York definitely has groups that are probably easy to find. Big cities have groups that are easy to find.
In Chicago, it was, again, when I was living there, it was before Facebook existed. Facebook came into being when I came to Korea.
Yeah, so if you moved to Chicago now, how would it be compared to moving to Seoul now?
Yeah, exactly. So I imagine it's a bit different, but my own experience in Chicago, all of the like social groups I was involved in, I had, I was when I was in graduate school, I was a bartender. So I had kind of that crew. So that was like one circle was just like, the night crew. And then everything else was based on my academics. So I was doing like practicum, going to like different schools. And they would always pair you off with like a few other graduate students. And so you're going as a group. And so you're doing projects, you're writing together. And having experiences together. And so that became like my little family, plus roommates. Big cities like Chicago, I had my own apartment, I think, for the first 2 years. And it's just, you can save so much money, and you can just have, or even just for the same amount of money, you can have so much more space and just like a really cool house.
Right.
So that's more common as well. Like I've never had a roommate in Korea until this house.
Okay. Well,
people who've had roommates in Korea.
Had roommates, right, Kev?
Yeah, for a short time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a roommate too, but we came from Thailand together. So we were kind of, we had told the school, like, we'll live together. We had kind of planned that, and the school said, we'll find you a place like that, with 2 bedrooms. But I, the whole meetup thing, like, I'm just thinking of myself in Minnesota. I'm from the Midwest. I don't know if like just meeting up to go hiking is enough of a social bond for like a new friendship. But I feel like in Korea it is because of that, like that planned. I don't know. I feel like in Minnesota you would need something stronger, like classmates or working together or going to the same church or something like that. Where there's like a larger context but I don't know. That's just my feeling. I could be totally off base, and maybe there are meetup groups and circles in all the big cities. I'm sure there are, but
yeah. But on the other hand, like in the Midwest, maybe more in a superficial way, you just kind of know everybody in your little hometown. Like I grew up like you in the sticks, and yeah, like
somebody pushing for friendship, that would automatically be like a red flag for me. Like, oh, this person, I need to not be friends with this person because they want to be friends with me. I've had it, because I'm married now, and I'm 45 years old. I've actually had to kind of not like it feels like almost like break up or reject like friendships so I've had people that were kind of extending friendship to me, sending me like just platonic friendships where it's like, hey, would you like to, let's get some coffee, or let's, we live in the same neighborhood. We're both we're from America. And I always make an excuse not to hang out with those people because I've kind of set in I've got my friends, I'm done. Like, I don't need any new relationships to cultivate and to think about and to, occupy mental space or whatever. And because I have so little time anyway, so I kind of have become the opposite. I've become almost like antisocial as I've gotten older.
Yeah, I don't hang out as much. I've actually got a new
maybe that's too harsh,
group that I subscribe to that I really want to go. They have meetings, although these days it's closed down because of Corona. But I want to go to these meetings, but I just can't find the time to go. So I still have the Cacao. I haven't left the big chat group. There's like 50 people in it. It just keeps popping up.
Oh, wow.
And there's like new meeting this week. And I'm like, I'm just not going to reply. I'll just see that it's there and know that I can't go. But
when those people reach out to me and like they want to go hang out, it gives me anxiety, and I just thought of like, please just leave me alone. And so I end up just kind of ghosting those people, and it's really weird. I don't know why. Maybe that's my own quirky thing, but
I think there's something that's natural about that. Like as you get older, making friends, it's not, I don't think it's necessarily harder. It's just different. You got to put a little more effort into different things.
Yeah. I think would the three of us be friends if we didn't work together? Like, if I'm trying to think of another like context where we would be, together and forming a friendship. It would take effort. Whereas working together, you don't need, there's no effort involved. So for me, I feel like it doesn't cause anxiety.
Relationships when I was younger, like in my early 20s, they could be just like kind of happenstance. Like, I like this person's fun to hang out. And then that's what you do, is just, you generally just kind of hang out. But as I get older, I don't know if it's because time is more precious to me or something. I don't believe that. I'm not sure. But like, the people I hang out with, there always is like a reason we're working on something. Like these days I'm playing music again for the first time in ages.
Yeah. And
so like, that's a reason to meet people, is because I'm playing in a band. There's always like, it's event based. There's an activity. That might just be me, but I feel like that
you're
helps.
A very busy guy. You're always
you are very active. You have a very,
maybe,
you're
but
doing something. Yeah.
Like more than anybody I know, pretty much, I think.
Yeah, but wouldn't you agree with that, Kev? Like, you and I, like, we've worked together. Okay, for people listening, the three of us, which has probably been established a few times in this podcast, we've worked together for over a decade. Yeah. Yeah. And Kevin and I, we work on the same campus. Our desks literally face each other right now. So when I look up, I see his face.
Well, 2 years ago, he would have.
Oh, yeah, it's been 2 years. But I mean, literally, our desks.
Haven't been to the office.
Yeah, we have a little divider between.
He's got a cardboard cutout of Kevin that you use at home.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you think about it, Kev, like you and I, obviously we built our acquaintance off of the fact we had a mutual job, right? So we hung out. Like after work, we can go get a pint or something. We can talk about class a little bit. And generally, it was just, hey, you're just a cool guy, and I like talking to you.
It's pretty much how it worked.
We really became close when you and I built a smoker and started making salmon. Remember that? The smoked salmon?
Yeah, but I think the reason we built that was because we already were close.
Well, sure. Right. But I feel like that took it to another level. It was like, oh, now we're learning something together. We're studying something together. And then we traveled. We've bumped into each other, like, I don't know how many times out of the country.
A couple times on the road, at least.
Yeah, like, and that
That's
becomes
funny.
a thing. Like you're actually,
Yeah.
you're
2 or 3 times.
yeah, we didn't intend to travel together. It was like our paths crossed. But just the last time any of us traveled, I saw you in Bali, right? No,
Oh, well, that was like, yeah,
that was the
relatively
last
recently.
trip, right? Like before COVID. Or you had one more. You went to
Yeah.
Japan. Yeah.
No, I went to Bali again.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think as I get older, and I think maybe this is for a lot of people, especially if you're maybe living here. I don't know if it's unique or not, but I think if you have an activity or a thing to do, that's a way to create more bonding and experiences. That really,
Yeah.
honestly, I hope it supplants the MT thing, because I honestly, I find it kind of disgusting. I don't think anybody should have to abuse their bodies to, have membership in a community. It's absurd.
No, I totally agree with you. Like, yeah, the hazing thing needs to go. It's
Like
So
I was saying,
done,
I do think that MT is still there, but I don't think it's the same hazing as it used to be.
That's
That's definitely
Good
gone to some extent, gone away, as has the military thing that we were talking about at the beginning. Like, I know it used to be that if you didn't go to the military, guys would be like, oh, you didn't go, and it maybe was harder for them to interact. Whereas these days, it's like, you didn't go to the military, well done. How did you swing that?
How did you swing that? Right. Yes,
Right.
You're right. That has changed, because like 20 years ago, it was kind of a secret. You wouldn't tell people you didn't go to the military. You just kind of stay quiet. Now,
but now it's
like,
well
if
done.
you can
It's
get
good
out
job.
of it, you're like, you score, Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it as well, something else that I remembered from earlier, we were talking about like huishiks and things like that being very common in work situations. I've seen a couple of articles recently in the last year in the news, because a lot of people have been working from home over the past year. And not only working from home, but even if they are going to the office, the huishiks have been like just way turned down, like many notches, because it's just sketch to go out to restaurants. Or for a long time last year, all the restaurants were closed after 6 or 8 or whatever time it was. So huishiks just weren't a thing. And I saw some articles basically people being like, we're not going back to that. Like, huishiks are not coming back. So I think that culture just kind of got kicked in the ass, and to some extent it will come back.
That's kind of fascinating.
Not in the same way.
That correlates to America, where a lot of workers are saying, no, I've been working at home and I'm just as productive as I was when I got on the stupid metro every day and fought my way to get to the damn office and sat in my chair, looked at Facebook for 8 hours. I'm more productive at home. And so these CEOs are saying, come back to the office. And people are saying, no, I'm not going back. I'll quit and I'll find a new job instead of going back. I think in Korea, they're going to go back to the office, but the huishik is done, like that's their concession. Maybe
to some extent, it seems that is dying. They're getting used to the not, like, I remember seeing articles that are like, yeah, I don't have to like make excuses to go out and drink anymore. I can do this. So I think that's something that will change at least a bit. I'm sure it'll come back to some extent, but I don't think as much.
Yeah, that's interesting. This got a little more philosophical than I had anticipated, but I like that we kind of took it to that.
Podcasts are for, man.
Yeah, man. This is when you talk about friendships, it's, I think we're a pretty interesting maybe the dissection of like what how we formed those friendships, because I started in the Hagwon, Kevin started in the Hagwon, but Ryan, you were kind of plugged into your buddy, and so it's interesting to get that kind of different perspectives. But I don't know, do you guys reckon we should wrap it up here? We covered it.
I think it was pretty good. Yeah.
We've solved friendships.
We solved it.
You're
welcome, Internet.
You're
welcome. Did it again.
Yeah, if you guys want to download the podcast, you can find us on all the major platforms. If you can find it in your hearts to give us a positive review on iTunes, that's going to really help us out. You can find us on our website, thesoulpatch.com. You can find everything there, including the YouTube channel. And I guess we'll see you next week at the Patch. Take care, everybody. Thanks, guys.
I'd like to pay a couple respects to the people that made me what I am today. Dawson Gear.
It's all my love. It's all my love.
The quiet man.
It's all my love. It's all my love.
Dopamine. Jim.
It's all my love. It's all my love. It's all my love.
The brain.
It's all my love. It's all my love.
Hey, Bobby. Let the bass go. Call me an eater, call me a dominant.